Okay, thanks everybody for joining us this morning for the GSHA Utah Chapter monthly meeting. I do like these earlier meetings because I can get stuff done besides our meeting. Marylinda Gonzalez is a senior at University of U. She's majoring in English and ethnic studies. We've been working pretty close, well, rather closely this past year. I think it's been the past year, right? Yeah, but I first had her in a class 4 years ago, 3 years ago in diversity scholars. And I guess she liked my class and she just kept taking some of my classes. And she's pretty sharp student. And that's why I kind of recruited her to help out with this project. This is kind of the second project she's been working on. We had a poster that was about Puerto Ricanidad earlier this summer, and we kind of built on this with a story map, an ArcGIS story map, with collaboration with Utah Historical Society. Marylinda is majoring in, like I mentioned earlier, English and Ethnic Studies, and she has an emphasis in Latinx Studies. I'm going to turn it over to her. She will be graduating in the spring and off to other, probably graduate school, I imagine. And she's been great to work with, and I'll just turn it over to you as well. Thank you. You're on mute.
There we go. Can you hear me now? Okay. Um, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for letting me give you guys this presentation. Before we get started, I would just like to say a couple more thank yous. Thank you to Bomba, Mairlé, and WestSide Dance for being participants in this project. Without them, this project would not have been possible. And thank you to the GSHA Utah chapter, because a lot of the oral histories that are in the databases that we're going to be talking about have been completed with GSHA members. And just a note before we get started, this is research in progress. This is work in progress. This story map has not been published yet. We still have an editing process that we're going to go through. So any feedback that you may have or any questions, please feel free to raise that at the end. I'd love to hear your feedback. So let's get into it. Also, this picture is of WestSide Dance. And again, this is a work in progress. So ideally, I want a picture that highlights both dance groups, but we're still trying to figure out the technicalities around that. Um, so Bomba and Baile Folklorico, Puerto Rican and Mexican community in Utah's Wasatch Front. Utah Latinx communities have a long history that is gradually coming to light with their increased growth in recent decades. In this project, we use oral histories and archival materials on the story map to demonstrate the construction and maintenance of Utah Latinidad through the lens of traditional Puerto Rican bomba and Mexican baile folklorico. And we're building upon work that has been done by previous Latinx scholars. Uh, one scholar that we're drawing upon is Dr. Solorzano, who wrote a paper that asserts the indigenous origins of Latinidad in Utah. Traditionally, Utah is not thought of as a state with a strong presence of Latinidad or as a state with as a that's a Latino enclave. Um, but Solorzano shows us that this is actually not the case. And he actually makes the case that the first links of Latinidad actually began with the Aztecs. He reports that Aztecs and Ute tribes actually participated with each other and interacted with each other and actually traded with each other. He says, quote, the Uto-Aztecan language is a manifestation of the cultural interchange between Aztecs and Utes. The use of the Uto-Aztecan language in Utah's history testifies that many Native American tribes The Utes among them have lineages that reach from the southwest to Mexico or Mesoamerica. So not only does this assert that there is indigenous links of Latinidad in Utah, he also goes on to talk about Spanish colonization and later Mexican colonization before Utah became part of the United States. And he also gives us this table that shows us places that common places in Utah and their original Spanish names that were later changed by Mormons. For example, we have Utah Lake was called Laguna de los Tempranovos. We have Burrison Ponds was called Ojo de San Pablo. We have Strawberry Reservoir of Valle de la Purísima. So again, just emphasizing that Latinidad has always been present in Utah despite common beliefs. The next scholar that we're drawing upon is Vicente Meyer, and he actually worked with the peoples of Utah Revisited to create one of the first oral history databases for Latinos, and this is called the Spanish-speaking Peoples of Utah database. And a lot of the interviews that he conducted demonstrate the early Latinx community building that these Latinos were involved in. This photo was actually generously donated by GSHA's own Gloria Gonzalez Cook. This photo was uploaded to the Peoples of Utah Revisited database that we'll talk about in more depth in a few minutes. But here you can see traditional folklorical dresses, and you can see that this first Mexican parade happened on September 16th, 1973 in Salt Lake City. So again, the community building has indigenous roots and continues on into the 70s. And then we're also drawing upon Dr. Ed Munoz's work of interrogating Latinidades. This project, again, looks at oral histories, and it actually draws upon the oral histories from the Spanish-speaking peoples of Utah archive, but it also looks at some Wyoming databases as well. And again, these interviews assert that we are continuing to build Latinidad. These interviews were done in the 70s and 80s, and they highlight intra-Latinidad conflict as well as differences within Latinos, but it affirms that Latinidad continues to grow and change because there's new destination states that Latinos are arriving to instead of traditionally thought of places as California and Arizona. And the picture that we have here is Mairlé Munoz after her quinceañera with the Impala in front of a mural with the Muerto. So again, just showing that Latinidad continues to be built in Salt Lake City in Utah. And throughout this presentation, you've already heard me use the term Latinidad. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's simply put, it's what it means to be Latinx or Hispanic. And on the one hand, Latinx communities have been systematically marginalized and under-resourced historically and in the present. Also, if you have questions about why we use the term Latinx instead of Latino or Hispanic, feel free to ask about that at the end of the presentation. Continuing on. On the other hand, Latinx communities and individuals have responded through individual and collective agency to find ways to be included into U.S. society. However, these historical and contemporary struggles have occurred within the context of an intersectional Latinidad or Latinidad that recognizes individual and group differences that produce different experiences, struggles, and inclusion, sorry. And this is basically getting at the idea that Latinidad, being Latino is not a monolith. Some of us identify different racially, such as Black, white. So the struggles that we face based on that will be different from person to person. So considering these differences between and within Latinx communities can better explain the phenomenon such as the quote-unquote inexplicable Latino vote in the most recent presidential election. What we would like to focus on in this presentation, though, is the joy of building strong and resilient communities for Latinx individuals and overall well-being. And then some concepts that we've discovered in our research that are an integral part of Latinidad I'm going to go over them. So one of them is cultural citizenship. As a growing number of researchers point out, cultural citizenship, and not strictly legal citizenship, is how this joy of community building is accomplished in the face of exclusionary rhetoric, behavior, and or policies. Latinx cultural resiliency and shared cultural expressions define who they are, how they build community, and claim their civil liberties, place, and humanity. An example of cultural citizenship would be the March for Immigrant Rights that took place in Utah in May of 2006. A lot of the people that participated in this march were undocumented, but despite this, they were still showing their citizenship because they were participating in community building and making their voices heard and going against exclusionary rhetoric and behavior. And cultural citizenship allows for the maintenance of understood values, beliefs, and norms, and fosters strategies for inclusion in the face of alienation. Convivencia diaria is Spanish for daily living, and this is where cultural citizenship emerges. Convivencia diaria is Latinx's everyday interactions and relations between and within our communities, making tamales, political organizing, sharing employment information, compadrazgo, exchanging information about dance costumes, shoes, accessories, participating in the dance groups Bomba, Mairlé, and WestSide dance are all examples of convivencia diaria. And we are using oral history projects as a way to showcase Latinx belonging and their insistence to express and document Latinx experiences, both positive and negative. This expression and documentation works to strengthen Latinx agency and resolve for collective organizing, resulting in the social, economic, and political welfare of Latinx individuals and communities. Basically, this is the idea that Latinx individuals have to go out of their way to belong in U.S. society, and the narrators that participate in our oral histories do demonstrate belonging and insistence because they are going out of their way to make sure that their stories are documented and heard. So some background for the study. We are looking at the Wasatch Front instead of just Salt Lake specifically. We have this graph here that is a little blurry. We're trying to get it fixed, so I won't spend too much time on it. But these big bars here, it's a bar graph. The ones that take up the most space on the bar graph are the Mexican population in each respective county. So you see that Mexican population is the biggest in all of these counties. And then this light gray to my right was the Caribbean Hispanic population, and that would be where the Puerto Rican group falls within. And with the exception of Washington County, all of these counties are part of what is recognized as the Wasatch Front. So Utah County, Davis County, Salt Lake County, and Weber County are all counties that we're looking at. And we're going to go ahead and look at some demographics for the groups that we're focusing on. So we have the Puerto Rican demographic, Caribbean Hispanic group, and Utah's Puerto Rican population grew 63% between 2010 and 2020, which is a very large increase. More than 8 in 10 Puerto Ricans live in the 4 Wasatch counties. Utah's Puerto Rican population is similar in age to Hispanic. This percentage growth represents 67,525 residents, the most of any Hispanic group. So while the growth rate slowed, it's still a large number of Mexican residents living in Utah. And then Utah's Mexican population is actually younger than the state's and Hispanics' overall populations. We have 37.5% of Mexicans under age 18 and 4% age 65 or older. And Utah's Mexican population is 51.1% male, with 104 males for every 100 females. And we just wanted to go through this demographic information because it really shows the necessity for this project. Not only is there a historical presence of Latinidad in Utah, we are still here and we are continuing to grow, particularly in other Latino groups, such as the Puerto Rican group that has grown 63% in the last 10 years. And moving on, some information about the dance groups. We have Bomba, Mairlé, and once this story map is published, you will actually be able to interact with it a bit more. So this description also links you to their website so that you're able to see more information about them, their executive director, board of directors, awards and grants, stuff like that. Also their community events because they do host a lot of events. But more about them. Bomba is a Puerto Rican style of dance and music with origins from historic African and indigenous roots in the Caribbean. Bomba Mairlé is Utah's first Bomba group. This nonprofit organization was founded in 2017 by Miriam Padilla. And from their mission statement, Bomba Mairlé strives to share Afro-Puerto Rican traditions of bomba, music, dance, and ancestral stories through educational and interactive events that foster healing, connectedness, and community. And here's a little bit of a closer look at their logo. And then we have WestSide Dance. And WestSide Dance is a baile folklorico group. Baile folklorico is a collective term for a multitude of cultural dances originating from Mexican states. And WestSide Dance is a group for children. And not only does this group place a strong emphasis on cultural pride, but also instills values of community service. And it was founded by Maxine Lucero. And more about the community service later on in Maxine's interview, you'll be able to see where her importance for community service came from. And their Facebook is also linked. So once this is published, you'll be able to look around more easily and get more information about these organizations. And this is their logo. And we have a video here as we're getting onto our methods. We've mentioned this, but we've used oral histories to examine Latinidad. So we're gonna go ahead and watch this short YouTube video. Please let me know if you have any audio issues or anything like that.
Oral history is a widely used and widely varying term, depending on who you ask. According to oralhistory.org, oral history is the field of study and a method of gathering, preserving, and interpreting the voices and memories of people, communities, and participants in past events. In short, oral history is the sharing and maintenance of verbal stories. So now that we have a baseline definition for what oral history is, we can ask the more complex question of when and where it started. Storytelling is one of the oldest forms of sharing history, with songs, chant, and epic poems memorializing iconic and historic moments. Many of Shakespeare's plays documented the reigns of English kings in the 1500s.
Okay, I think we got the gist of what we needed to get from that. But we're using oral histories as a way to document the histories of these Latinx groups that are often not talked about enough. And here are the databases that we are using. This is a screenshot of the Construyendo Latinidad database. This database consists of 18 oral histories. The majority are Zoom video recorded interviews, as well as edited transcripts. So not only can you watch the videos, the transcripts are available for you to read along as you watch. The majority of narrators were /are GSHA Utah Chapter members. So once again, thank you for participating in this project. The majority of these GSHA individuals trace their Latinx roots to the southern Colorado and northern New Mexico region. And most of these narrators are retired after successful careers in tech, community development, and or government employment. Some topics that were covered include, but are not limited to, the Mexican Civil War, employment migration, Latter-day Saints and Catholic religious conflict, the Spanish Organization for Community Integrity and Opportunity, the Chicano movement, and not surprisingly, these narrators employed various labels in expressing their racial/ethnic identity. For example, Hispanic, American Mexican, Chicana, Chicano, Filipino Mexican, Caucasian Mexican. And again, this database is linked so that people can go check it out when they have a chance. We also utilize the Peoples of Utah Revisited database. This database hosts 15 oral histories, and there were only 2 GSHA narrators for this one. There was a more diverse pool. 3 of the narrators traced their Latinx roots from Mexico, 3 from Puerto Rico, 4 from other southwestern states, and 2 from non-southwestern states. They also documented different things, such as Hurricane Maria, that propelled some narrators to migrate to Utah. And once again, we had a variable in the racial and ethnic identity in these individuals, with some claiming more indigenous and African cultural roots. And once again, this database is linked, and this database does not just consist of oral histories, but it also has documents and other things that people have scanned in. Moving on, we did Zoom video recorded oral histories. For the Bomba group, we interviewed Miriam Padilla, Liliana Rodriguez, Marylinda Gonzalez, and Manuel Padro. For the Baile Folklorico group, not all of them are affiliated with WestSide Dance, but they do participate in Ballet Folklorico in some form. Maxine Lucero, Tisha Ramos Yarber, and Suyin Chong. And we have this map here that you can interact with, and I'd just like to highlight Vernal, Utah. This is where Manuel Badro was born. And in his interview, he discusses discrimination that he faced by white peers growing up in the LDS church. However, he also recounts facing discrimination from other groups of Latinos who saw him as white and ridiculed his Puerto Rican heritage. He has a Puerto Rican father and a mother who claims pioneer ancestry. And then we have Suyin Chong, who was born in Guadalajara but raised in Sonora. And growing up in a border state made Suyin want to move to the United States, and she eventually would, before ultimately settling down in Salt Lake City. And Suyin has Chinese ancestry, as her grandfather immigrated to Mexico from China. And we use a variety of archival materials from the People of Utah's Revisited database, as well as images from personal collections and images from dance troupe websites and social media. So here we have Ed Munoz, we have some pictures from Bomba Mairlé, we have some donated pictures from GSHA members, I believe, and we also have a poem about colorism that Bomba Mairlé donated or scanned in. And for our findings, we found that in all of these interviews, the narrators in some way demonstrated the concepts that we were looking at that demonstrate Latinidad. Once again, these interviews are linked so you can actually go watch them yourself, and they will be found in the databases. So cultural citizenship, just a reminder, it's the idea of citizenship that goes beyond legality, taking up space, organizing, and creating spaces where you can belong. And Miriam Padilla, just a reminder, is the director of Bomba Mairlé. So this is her speaking on how she founded it, or why she founded it. I'm in Utah to make it my home and continue creating the spaces that we are going to feel safe in and comfortable in. And so I figure if safe spaces are not there, then we're going to create them. And that's what we've been trying to do. So, and this demonstrates cultural citizenship because Miriam goes out of her way to create a space where Puerto Rican people can have community. And then we have convivencia diaria, like daily living. This is Manuel Padro, a member of Bomba Mairlé. And just a reminder, convivencia diaria is the ways in which we interact with our communities and the support that comes from our daily interactions. And his quote reads, "And it wasn't until I met Bomba Mairlé that they were like, 'You're totally welcome. Come play Bomba with us.' And then I could suddenly be myself. It was amazing. It was great to be able to be honest about who you really were, not pretending to be somebody you weren't. So I was 38 years old before I had a community that I belonged to that understood me." And again, this speaks to some of the information that we saw earlier in the map, where Manuel struggled with finding acceptance in white communities and also other Latinx communities, really emphasizing the importance of groups like Bomba Mairlé. Then we have Omar Gonzalez, another Bomba Mairlé member, and his quote speaks to belonging and insistence. Part of like my livelihood when after you're working and you're done working, what do you do? It became something that I was like frequently going to a lot of those Bomba places. And going to those places connected me to a lot of other people. And I started connecting with this whole community of Bomba, players and singers and dancers and folkloric dancers. Bomba in Utah is the oasis in the desert. And again, this speaks to the way that Latinx individuals go out of their way to create belonging in the United States by joining groups like Bomba Mairlé or WestSide Dance. Here we have cultural citizenship, and this is Maxine Lucero. Just a reminder, she is the director, creator of WestSide Dance. And we had previously mentioned that community service is a big part of WestSide Dance, not just strengthening cultural values. And this quote speaks a little bit as to why this community service is important to her. Something that happened that really impacted my life is socio. What I can recall is they used to help people que no estaban documentados, get jobs, find doctors or something like that. But as a little girl, I remember hanging out there, because my mom had her regular job. And then they would spend their extra hours at socio, helping people. And I used to see that at a very young age. And I think that really impacted me to learn more about my roots and wanting to know more. So I used to always hang out with my mom at that socio place, and I used to see a lot of stuff happen there. I remember one time them getting shut down, I think, or something about them getting shut down. I can't remember. And for some reason or another, that is what started me seeing that not everybody is treated equally. And all of that really impacted me. And I'm just so, I mean, a lot of who I am today was impacted by those experiences. And this goes with the concept of cultural citizenship because it once again demonstrates that cultural citizenship is not just in legal terms. Citizenship deals with the joy of community building, and here Maxine is speaking to the importance or what instilled the importance of cultural citizenship to her. Next we have Tisha Ramos Yarber. Her children actually participated in WestSide dance. So that is her involvement with Baile Folklorico. And Tisha is actually Mexican and Puerto Rican, so she speaks a bit to both of her to her cultural heritage in this quote. Having my let's see, like having my daughter in dance and Mexican folklore dancing, we grew up around that. I think with my son singing, he kind of picked that up on his own. And I think from where we're from in the Rose Park area, you know, you're surrounded by that everywhere. Like the Puerto Rican traditions, we have our food, we still gather. We don't do a traditional American Thanksgiving dinner. We do a Puerto Rican dinner. That's been passed down to all of us. We cook lechon, they call it, a pork kernel, and we have pasteles and rice and beans. That's, you know, the staple. We do all that and the music. That's part of our tradition, the dancing, you know, all that. So again, convivencia diaria is daily living, and Tisha goes really into depth about the daily living that she participated in that reinstilled her cultural heritage, like the food that she would eat with her family, the folklorical dancing, the singing in Spanish, the gathering with family, the music, all of that helps. All of that is part of convivencia diaria. And participating in dance groups can also builds the cultural citizenship as we have asserted. Next we have Suyin Chung. She's not a participant in WestSide Dance. However, she is part of an adult group of folklorical dancers, so she is very much involved in folklorical, and she speaks to our belonging and insistence. So I ended up practicing, and I don't know if it's because you're away from your country that you feel so connected just by wearing the costumes is like, wow, this is what represents me. Or maybe it's to realize how much other people love these traditions that not even you as a Mexican understand how powerful it is until you're surrounded by people telling you how beautiful it is. And just as a reminder, Suyin immigrated to Utah from Mexico, and this quote talks about her going out of her way, again, her insistence to belong in the United States by joining groups that reaffirm her cultural identity by participating in folklore dancing. So, for our implications of the future, oral history and archival research can provide rich, nuanced evidence of Latinidad as it manifests through traditional Puerto Rican Bomba and Mexican baile folklorico. As Bomba, Mairlé, and WestSide dance members point out, dance and dance spaces are a way to cultivate and maintain safe spaces in the face of a harsh social environment. This process occurs in everyday interactions within and outside of dance spaces. Those everyday interactions would be part of convivencia diaria. What's more, expressing Puerto Ricanidad and Mexicanidad through traditional bomba and ballet folklorico is an insistence on belonging in U.S. society. Finally, there is no better time in documenting Utah Latinidad than in the present. It fulfills a lack of research about Latinx communities outside of traditional Latinx enclaves. More importantly, it is a way to push back on anti-DEI initiatives, particularly with respect to education. Further research should continue documenting Latinidad in other manifestations, such as GSHA Utah Chapter activities, the Manito Trail to Utah, Latinx professionals, etc. One way that I would like to continue documenting Latinidad is through my future work, the creation of fiction novels. I want to be a creative writer, and a lot of my work focuses on the Latinx experience, which is why I am double majoring in ethnic studies with an emphasis in Latinx studies, and why I got into this research in the first place. I feel that we have a lot to learn from each other, and everyone's experiences of their Latinidad is so different from one another. And I am wrapping up, but I would like to share this video that I took at one of Bomba Mairlé's events. This was at their Pintando Figuras event, and it just shows the kind of things that they do. And in the video, you will see Miriam Padilla, you will see Omar Gonzalez, and you will see Liliana Rodriguez, who all participated in this project. So let me know if you have any issues with the audio, but I'm going to go ahead and play that now. So that's just one of the examples of the events that Bomba Mairlé hosts. This event was actually open to the public. It's not just for Bomba Mairlé members. And I actually had a great time attending. It was beautiful to watch the dancing and hear the music, and I even participated in some of the dancing myself towards the end. And before I wrap up, here is another picture I have of the WestSide dance group. And then a picture of the Bomba Mairlé members at one of their gatherings. Again, convivencia diaria. And I think this is at Jordanelle Park. Before I end, I would like to thank the Utah Historical Society that is helping us with this project. Through them, we're able to work on the story map. The Office of Undergraduate Studies, Undergraduate Research that currently funds me. The Mellon Foundation that has provided me and Dr. Munoz with funding to focus on this project. And then the University of Utah School for Cultural and Social Transformation, specifically the Department of Ethnic Studies, that we both work under. And then again, very importantly, thank you to the two dance groups, Bomba Mairlé and WestSide Dance. Thank you, Miriam, because I saw that you were attending. And as well, thank you, GSHA, for giving us all those oral histories, but also giving me the chance to present this research in progress to you. If you have any questions, feel free to share them with me now. If I can't answer them, I'm sure that Dr. Munoz will help answer them. And I will stop sharing now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh,
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I had one question. I was just curious, when you were talking about the percentages of Mexicans and Puerto Ricans in Utah. As far as the Mexican, I mean, are you talking about people who are Mexican nationals or people who say they are Mexican or who define themselves that way?
This is based on Census Bureau data,
Oh,
and
okay.
I imagine that it's people who self-identify as Mexican, so not just Mexican nationals, but Mexican Americans and Chicanos as well.
Okay. No, I was just curious about how they determine who's Mexican.
Any more questions? Or any feedback or suggestions? Because we plan to post this story map live, so it will be a website that the general public will be able to access. So if you have any suggestions based on that. Yes, Brenda?
Thank you for that. I'm sorry I missed the very first part, but I just want to say how important I think that work is to help unify all of us that consider ourselves Latinos, Latinas, Latinx, and also the importance of dance. You know, that I study matachines, which is a different kind of dance than bomba, or because it's ceremonial, and bomba and folklorico are not ceremonial. They're, well, we could say secular. But I've been going to this ethnochoreology conference in Mexico for some time, and the more I've gone there, the more it's clear to me how important it is to how important dance is for populations, and how, why have we lost dance in the US, right? I mean, because when I was growing up, we still had all those Saturday night dances. Somebody always had a band, and we went, and the dances are just not as popular as they used to be. But there's all kinds of research that shows how important it is for, just for all of us, the exercise, the sociability, the community that it creates. And experiencing joy, which has been, I think, robbed from us in this phase of late capitalism. So some people I know say it's the reason we don't have dance is just a casualty of late capitalism. But I really think it's important for our kids. And I'm hoping to get my grandchildren, to get my kids to get my grandchildren into some kind of dance. I don't even care what kind it is. I mean, I love African dance because I know a lot about African music, and I know how good African dance is for you physically, but also rancheras, it's just, and whatever. There's a lot of Indian dance from India now the kids can take. So anyway, I just think that's a wonderful project. I just saw a film here in Albuquerque on Latinidad that was funded by the NEH. It wasn't a very long film. We kept wanting to hear more, because even though they had interviewed maybe 7 people, you still know that there's more. And so I think for us looking at this, it's very exciting to have that feeling that we're getting to know each other beyond just our basic, communities and stuff. And we need that kind of coalition. I think it's really important. So thank you for the work that you're doing. I look forward to seeing you continuing this work. As you're young. It's very inspiring for me to hear you. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yes, I do agree that this research has really, sorry about that, highlighted the importance of dance. My parents actually met at a baile, so, very culturally significant to our community making. Watching the Bomba Mairlé people dance was actually like almost brought tears to my eyes just because I could see like how connected their community was. They had a lot of children there that were dancing too, and it just that daily living is gonna help us maintain our Latinidad. Any other questions?
Comments?
Thank you.
This is Miriam. I just obviously want to say thank you. We've talked before, but thank you for your work and thank you for uplifting our voices and highlighting our stories. And I look forward to 50 years from now, our pictures of Bomba being like that 1973 picture that you took from the first parade, since we're the first, Bomba group here in Utah and we're creating history. And so I really appreciate that you're there to capture those special moments that are making history here in Utah. And, hopefully that our stories will be listened to more. I think a lot of people in Utah don't know much about Puerto Rico and don't know much about what it means to be Puerto Rican, and Puerto Rican in Utah. It's this whole other concept in itself. And so I appreciate you, telling our stories. So keep up the good work and good job to you in the future.
Yeah, thank you for that. This is Isaias, the musical director from Marylé. Yeah, I think it's great. I also want to say thank you for all the work that is being done, and everybody that is involved, right? Because I'm pretty sure it's not one person, it's many people behind it. But also, I think that this is great because hopefully if someone sees this video here in Salt Lake or in Utah, they hopefully it can inspire them to do the same thing, right? Create a Colombian group, a Peruvian group, many groups from different parts of Latin America, and also, because like within Mexico, I'm Mexican. We can say, oh yeah, we can do podcast norte, right? But there's a lot more than that. Oaxaca has its own thing. Mérida has its own thing. Chiapas has its own thing. There's so much to do, and I'm pretty sure it's the same thing in other countries like Panama, Colombia, Brazil. So hopefully, because no one has done anything with Puerto Rican music here, but this I hope inspires other people. Maybe some Cubans, maybe some Haitians, maybe some Dominicans. Who knows? So it's great that this is happening. Thank you.
Thanks.
I just
I just
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Marylinda.
I was gonna say thank you.
Okay. I wanted just to talk a little bit about some of the technical stuff or whatever. We're using the ArcGIS platform, which allows us to do a lot of interactive things, as Marylinda kind of showed you. And this is through the Peoples of Utah Revisited project as well. And one of the reasons we wanted to do this story map, in addition to writing some manuscripts, is that once this goes live on Utah Historical Society website, it'll be able to be shared with not just like folks like the GSHA, but we're hoping that it'll even be shared with it'll be like a teacher tool as well, educational tool that teachers within of any school district can access this and use it for educational purposes as well. I want to thank Marylinda for all the work. She and I have been working together on this for a while. But just to show you her commitment, we practiced the talk yesterday. And I think it was her first time, might be the first time she's haven't had to give a 40-minute talk. And so yesterday afternoon, she realized she needed to polish up some more and she wanted to practice some more. So we practiced at 7 o'clock this morning.
oh geez.
So that's some commitment. I told her, well, I'm always up early, as some of you know, and I says, if you want to practice again, I'm available. And she said, let's do it at 8. And I said, well, I got to take my daughter, but I can go earlier. So we practice at 7 o'clock in the morning. And excellent job. Thank you for all your work and your commitment. And I'm sure you will be a professor of English and Latinx studies sooner rather than later.
I just wanted to add that I lived in New York City for almost 20 years, and so a lot of I met a lot of people, obviously, that I had never met in Utah, and Puerto Rican people that I worked with. But also, I worked for a Cuban gentleman who was a singer in a traditional Cuban charanga band. And so, there's so much, as you were saying, there's so much out there that we've never seen in Utah that, we don't have any idea about the traditions, especially music and dance from other Latin American people, because we just haven't had that experience here. So really lovely to see that. And I had no idea that there were that many Puerto Ricans in Utah. I mean, I certainly have met here and there people who tell me they're Puerto Rican, but had no idea. So thank you so much.
We lost Albert, right?
Yeah.
I'm the host now.
Oh,
I don't,
well,
yeah.
then you have to stay.
I was going to stay anyway, anyways, but for our meeting, are there any other questions or comments before we move on to our business meeting? And everybody's welcome to stay for the business meeting, but if you have other things to do, we understand. With the new people that are here, feel free to reach out if you want to join. We meet once a month. On the third Saturday of the month, we have guest speakers every third month, and then have a business meeting. Different topics, and we did ours today, but it's only a $25 membership fee, and you get a journal with and you get access to not only our meetings, but you can have access to other chapters in Colorado and Southern California. So, and these folks meet often outside of this monthly meeting to do work on genealogy as well. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out and become a member.
Well, thank you, Ed.